Welcome to a new episode of the Women in Technology Spotlight, the podcast where I introduce inspiring personalities from the tech world and make their journeys, expertise, and experiences visible. Today, I'm especially happy to welcome an expert in the field of cybersecurity, Teresa Pereira. Teresa is a cyber threat hunter at a multinational company in the energy sector and specializes in threat hunting, penetration testing, red teaming, and API security. Previously, she worked at KPMG Portugal on projects for banks, the pharmaceutical industry, and various industrial sectors. But Teresa not only brings impressive professional experience, she's also deeply committed to the community. She's the founder and co-leader of the OWASP Leiria chapter, APIsec University ambassador, and a volunteer at Women in Security and Privacy. In addition, she was named API Security Person of the Year 2024 by APIsec University, a great recognition of her contributions to the field. At international conferences such as API Days, Paris, London, or the Geek Girls Portugal Conference, Teresa has already shared her knowledge with a wide audience. I'm very excited that she is here today to talk with us about her career path, her work as a threat hunter, and her perspective on the future of cybersecurity. Welcome, Teresa. I'm so glad you're here.
Thank you so much. Thank you. I'm really happy to be here with you. And thank you for the introduction as well.
So, again, welcome to the podcast. Could you briefly introduce yourself and tell us what you currently do?
Yes. So, as you mentioned, currently I work as a threat hunter. I'm based in Portugal, so I live in Portugal. I've lived in here my whole life. I live in a city like it's more or less in the center of Portugal, really close to the big waves or the Fatima Sanctuary, if you know it. And like you said, after work hours, I have a lot of initiatives, let's call it like that. I founded a local OWASP chapter here in my city called OWASP Leiria. I'm also an APIsec University ambassador. And actually, I started my specialization in API security in there about 3 years ago or something like that. And I'm also a volunteer for the Women in Security and Privacy. And yeah, I do a lot of many things basically after the work hours.
When I hear this, I wonder how you actually manage to fit that in a workday. It sounds like a lot, and I think it's amazing what you do for the community. Coming to your work, so many people know the terms SOC, incidents response, but threat hunting sounds like you're doing detective work. So, how would you explain to someone outside of IT what a threat hunter actually does?
Yes, it's like detective work, like you said. We do a lot of things and we collaborate with a lot of teams, such as incident management, vulnerability management, red teaming. So I can tell you that one of the basics that we do, like on a daily basis, is you have several news articles every day from Bleeping Computer, cybersecurity news, among many other amazing magazines. So what we do is we kind of like filter the news that are interested to us, to our environment, and then we search for a specific kind of data called IOCs, indicators of compromise, which are basically the footprints for the attacker. And these IOCs, in the end, they can be either IP addresses, domains, hashes, file names. It can be like a lot of things. So basically, we search for those in our environment. And depending on the hits that we have, usually we contact or we try to collaborate with the incident management team and ask for the help with that. Sometimes we do, I don't know, password reset or AV scan. It really depends on the hit on and also if it's critical or not. If we don't have any hits, we try to create what we call detection rules. So it's basically something that if that kind of IOC or behavior happens or appears in our environment in the future, it will raise an alert. So we search for IOCs and also the TTP, statics, techniques, and procedures. And those are really like, it really depends on the threat actor, but they can be very complicated to sometimes create a detection rule. But we do our best. I mean, it's not an easy job, right? But yeah, that's the basics that we do on a daily basis. And I mean, the goal in the end is trying to protect my company, in this case, from threat actors, from malicious people that are out there by analyzing and creating detections for their behaviors, the footprint that they use. and now you need to multiply this by, I don't know, more than 10 articles a day. And
Mhm.
it's a lot of stuff. We also do a little bit of vulnerability management with the vulnerability management team. So it's really important, at least in my opinion, to know how the internet works, like networking. We need to understand how you can exploit a certain vulnerability and if it's like something that can be critical in our environment or not. So I believe that to be a threat hunter, you need to have a good knowledge of the environment that you are working on. So it's basically that, but it's a really complicated job to like explain in just a few minutes.
Yes, I think what I heard is that basically you are sniffing out attackers and you find their footprint, and then you kind of lay like maybe like traps so you can detect them or catch them if they try to enter the environment again, just to put it in layman terms for people who are not from the field.
Yes.
And you also work with people to close the open doors in your company where criminal actors could enter, which are the vulnerabilities, for example. So
Yep.
that is a very, very low level summary of what you do. Because what you do and your whole career path, I looked at your LinkedIn, of course, I stalked you, is very fascinating. So you've done pen testing, you have done
Yes.
red teaming, and now threat hunting. So what attracted you to this specialization?
Yes, so I worked as a pen tester for almost 3 years, and I mean, I really love working in cybersecurity. It's really good to work on the red team side, but I was kind of like missing something because as a pen tester, you need to know how to exploit certain vulnerability. You need to analyze the business logic flow of the application. So you have a lot of things that you need to do, but you are like pure technical, and sometimes you don't have time to check what's out there, like the threat actors, what are the trends, the trending vulnerabilities, and you can't like translate those techniques and those exploitations to your daily job because sometimes you don't have time. And I was missing that part, so I kind of like discovered this job posting at the company that I currently work for. And I mean,
Mhm.
cybersecurity is a big, big umbrella. And then inside you have just, or underneath, you have sub areas. So you have pen testing, you have threat hunting, you have many, many others. And I believe that if you work in cybersecurity, you should know at least a little bit of each one of these areas or sub areas. So why not? I took the risk and I decided to apply to the job. And now I kind of like I still do a little bit low level of pen testing because I need to exploit some vulnerabilities sometimes. But that thing that I was missing as a pen tester, I have it right now.
Mhm. It's an interesting shift from the attacker to the defender. And I'm wondering, did your experience as a pen tester, being the one who attacks and who finds vulnerability and exploits them, help you in your current role as a threat hunter to be a better threat hunter because you understand what the attackers are doing?
Yeah, yeah, it helped me a lot. Like you said, it helps me understand why they are doing specific things in specific
Mhm.
cases. Of course, this is not linear, but we tend to think, and this is a misconception, that threat actors, they are really like smart, they are genius. And sometimes they are not. They just run a tool and it works. But you have more sophisticated threat actors, and in there, it's important for you to understand why they are doing that specific way and not in another way, or why they are using that tool and not any other tool out there. So being a pen tester, it helped me like kind of understand that part and also the networking part, like how it works. Because as a threat hunter, you need to look at logs and you need to
Mhm.
understand the log and why. Like, okay, you have a connection, it's like an inbound connection or an outbound connection, and why is this direction and not the other direction? So you need to understand those basics. And also, yeah, I think that's basically it, like
Mhm.
how it helped me being a pen tester before. I mean, it probably it seems pretty easy for those that are listening to us, but it's like a course. I had like this course before as a pen tester, and now I can use it as a defender, as a threat hunter, and I can
Mhm.
understand things better and probably take or decide more precisely in some cases.
Mhm. I don't think it sounds easy, actually. I feel like In these days where everything, a whole infrastructure, a whole digital infrastructure is so complex, there's so many possible exploits that an attacker can use to try and get in. I think it does take a lot of skill and knowledge and a lot of patience and some psychological insight into the brain of an attacker to actually be good at this job. You mentioned tools that attackers use. Do you use any specific tools on the other side regularly? You talked about looking at the articles, finding IOCs and all this. Is there some tools that you specifically use and that you recommend learning, for example?
Yeah, I mean, we use like tons of tools for different things. We use some Microsoft products. I know that you have like plenty of Microsoft certifications on how to learn like Azure and other stuff. But I think I would recommend or suggest not tools, but probably languages. Let's call
Hmm.
it like that. For example, at university, I had, for example, SQL for the
Hmm.
databases. And we like having that one as a basis. It helps me, for example, understand PQL, which is the programming language or the language that you use in Microsoft Defender, for example. And it really depends on the products out there. But one of the things that I suggest are programming languages. So if you have, I don't know, a course on computer science, computer engineering, that's a good thing for being a pen tester or a threat hunter or for working in
Hmm.
cybersecurity
Hmm.
in general. If you don't understand anything about languages, I highly recommend you to take some courses and learn those. Another thing that it's also important, and it's not a tool again, but it's really important to our job, is critical thinking. You need to be able to kind of make decisions on the run, sometimes in the moment. So it's really important it's a soft skill in the end. So you need
Hmm.
to learn how to develop it and how you can be better at it in the end. I mean, in terms of tools, it's really like, it really depends on the company. It really depends on the environment. You have plenty of tools out there, both open source and paid. You just need to adjust. If you have the right basis, I think you can be
Absolutely.
successful.
I also see this. I think building a solid foundation with some basic knowledge that you will always need. You talked about networking earlier, for example, understanding how the internet works. And then,
Yeah.
of course, some foundation in programming languages, also scripting is definitely helpful. More helpful than a specific tool, because I think that in our space, it's always better to understand the concept than to be an expert in
Yes.
some
Tools.
single tool. So, from your perspective, what is the biggest challenge in your job?
So we see a lot of threat actors like nowadays using social engineering techniques such as
Mhm.
phishing and also vishing. And I mean, detecting phishing, you have a lot of tools that have detections for it. You can also create your own detections. You can block domains on the firewall. You can do a lot of things. You can do awareness training for the employees. But when it comes to vishing, and we, like for the past months, we have seen an increase in the use of vishing campaigns.
Ooh.
That's really hard to first detect because they are using a phone, right?
Mhm.
And second, it's really hard for companies to implement or to provide security awareness training when it comes to phishing.
Mhm.
And one of the things that I recommend for companies is, I mean, for phishing, you have the PowerPoints, you have the courses. That's awesome. Combine those with real tests. And when I say real tests, is like credible scenarios, you know, and with different complexities. For phishing, that's really hard to show users or train them using slides or PowerPoints. So what I recommend is perform phishing campaigns inside your company, and not only to like 20, 50 people, but to a big like sample of your company with different departments, different types of people. That's the greatest challenge nowadays, I think. And those combined with deepfakes, it's another big challenge. But yeah, maybe that's,
That's
yeah.
actually my next question. I was going to ask if you have seen with AI an increase in threat actors using AI to achieve their goals.
We see a lot of impersonation where you have, I don't know, a phone number, and the threat actor just edit the photo and adds a photo of the CEO for your company, for example. And then it sends you a message saying, oh, I'm like this person and we have this meeting tomorrow, or we have this meeting next week. Can you please send me these documents? And we have seen a lot of that out there. When it comes to deepfakes, we have real world examples. You have the known before company. I think it was them, I think, if I'm not mistaken. They hired this threat actor, and in the end, he was a deepfake. So you had someone using someone else's face, and he went to the whole hiring process and he was accepted. And
Really?
I mean, yes, yeah. I think if the people that are listening to us, if they Google it, I think it's them.
Known before? Okay,
Um,
I can check
it's a
that.
really interesting case. Yeah, I mean the deep fakes. For you to have a deep fake, you need to first establish a point of contact with the person, and I think for that is easier to use smishing, which is basically phishing over SMS, or the vishing, which is phishing over
Mhm.
voice. So I think that's probably the next level. Because, for example, imagine that you are the CEO for X company. You are not calling, I don't know, someone from IT or help desk or whatever in a video call, right? You are going to text them or call them.
Yeah.
So I think that's probably next level. And I think the deep fakes, I mean, we had this case for the hiring process. I think it's probably best like option when it comes
Mhm.
to the threat actors to use during job interviews, for example, to join that company. And then they can, like, they have an entry point, they are an employee there, so they can deploy the malicious malware
Actually,
inside.
it's such an interesting way to infiltrate the company. I mean, it's
Yeah.
a bit of work because you have to get through the hiring process, but
Yes.
wow, interesting.
Yeah.
So if you look ahead a couple of years, so just speculating, of course, what do you think all these developments will mean for threat hunting? I mean, it's not just, phishing and smishing and all that. It's also, I'm thinking of the development of new malware and all these things. Do you think that your job will get harder?
Probably, but we use some products that have like inbuilt defenses, right? I think we need to adapt. We need to learn and adapt, like in every other area in our life. But I think these tools that we use to help us will also be more like advanced in the future. And in the end, it's like all a collaboration. So you kind of like can collaborate with other teams, and it's not only like me or my team threat hunting in the end, but it's like a combination of other teams. And I mean, it's like I said, we need to learn and adapt, and let's see what the future brings.
Yeah, I get it. I mean, it's a bit looking like into the glass ball because we really don't know what it's going to be like. Both sides are developing, so it's always
Yeah,
this race between both sides. Both sides are using AI, obviously, and we'll see, of course, the tools we use will also develop.
yeah,
Speaking of development, if you think so, in this podcast we often feature jobs that sounds really interesting like yours, and then people are interested into maybe also going into that field. So if you were to recommend a path to become a threat hunter, is there something in terms of skills that you think would be indispensable for someone? Critical thinking, obviously, you said, but is there any path you see?
yeah. I don't like see like a linear path. I think those like the networking, the critical thinking are pretty good like skills, and it help you a lot to enter the cybersecurity world in general. I think that in general for cybersecurity, not only for threat hunting, but you need to be like willing to give some of your free time to learn new things.
Mhm.
And I'm saying this, if you work like if you have a full-time job, you need to be willing to learn new things in your free time. Try to search for knowledge out there and not be waiting for others to teach you things. I mean, cybersecurity, like I said, it's a big world, like a massive world. I know that for some people, they see cybersecurity because of the films, the movies about like how to be a hacker. I mean, that doesn't reflect the truth, how cybersecurity works, because we have a lot of things. before the pen test, actually, like processes. So I would say that you need to be like always seeking knowledge, like almost every day, or every day I should say. You need to be determined as well. You need to have patience, like you mentioned before. In the end, the technical part is important, but it's also good for you, and probably even better if you have great soft skills.
Yeah.
That will help you a lot, because I mean, you can develop and learn how to do things, but I mean, soft skills, it's a little bit harder than that to develop and to learn.
It's interesting that we always keep calling them soft skills because it's not technical, it's not science, but
Yeah.
they are becoming more and more important actually. And I also feel, and that's just my personal opinion, when it comes to skills like being able to relate to other people, communication, and all that, I feel that women
Yes.
are specifically good at these things. I don't want to overgeneralize, but the way we're conditioned is
Yeah.
helpful in this case.
Yeah.
And the other thing, I think, and that's probably true for many jobs in this area, but curiosity and the willingness to keep learning, I think, is a major factor in all these jobs.
Yeah.
And thank you for actually mentioning, you mentioned this earlier, that cybersecurity is a big umbrella and that there are so many different
Yeah.
silos, because people always come to me and ask me, so I'm interested in cybersecurity, what should I do? So I find it especially interesting to talk to people who do specific jobs, who then
Mhm.
explain what kind of skills they need and what they actually do, so people can get a
Yep.
better idea.
Yep.
A little bit from the technical part, because you're very active in the community, right? You give back a lot. You created OWASP Leiria, but you also volunteer for other communities and you do a lot of work outside of your job. Why is this important to you?
So it all started in 2023, and that's when I started specializing in API security. So I'm an ambassador for APIsec University, and I'm with them since their beginning, more or less. And in 2023, I worked for a consulting company, and I was doing pen tests to APIs. And doing pen tests to APIs, it can be very hard if you are only one person, because you have like tons of endpoints. You need to understand how the API works. And on top of that, you have a deadline. The deadline is for yesterday, like it works in consulting. So I had this meeting with APIsec University at the time, and I was trying to get my company to buy a scanner that they had, and they still have. It's pretty, pretty good. So we had this meeting, and after the meeting, Dan, which is the co-founder for APIsec University, he sent me a message on LinkedIn saying, "Oh, hi, Teresa. So we have this conference in Paris called P Days, and we will have like a side conference, like inside this conference. Would you be interested in speaking in there?" And I mean, at the time, I was like, well, maybe I don't think I don't have anything to add, you know? Like, what can you have like experts in there, and I'm just a newbie, so is there anything that I can add? I was thinking to myself, and then I talked to my mother, I talked to a few friends, and they're like, yeah, go ahead, just try it, you'll go to Paris. I was like, yeah, of course. So I accepted, and guess what, I really enjoyed like speaking in there. So in 2024, basically most of my year was, besides working as full time as a threat hunter, was speaking in conferences, both national and international. And yeah, after that, I decided to, I mean, it's good to speak in conferences, but for example, here in my city, we have a lot of meetups, events when it comes to IT, but nothing
Mhm.
for cybersecurity. So that's why I decided to found the OWASP chapter in here. And for those who don't know what OWASP is, it's basically a big non-profit organization, and their goal is to help people and organizations building more secure software. So
Mhm.
I decided to create the chapter in here. I mean, again, for the community, it's a non-profit thing, but it adds a lot to other people. And I really like feel that I'm giving something to the community, to add something to them. And for the women in security and privacy, I was like, yeah, maybe I should be involved in more like projects that involve women. So why not joining the women in security and privacy? So yeah, I'm a volunteer there for the scholarships. And I mean, it's just like it's fulfilling to, give something to the community and to know that they are kind of like learning something from you that probably they don't see or they don't learn on their daily
Mhm.
job or even after work hours. So it's just like the feeling in the end, and it's really, really good to know that you are making an impact in other people's lives.
Yeah, I agree. And I also feel that you can't underestimate the importance of having a community and a network of like minded people, because our jobs are busy and often you feel kind of alone with a lot of problems and things. And to have people who either experience the same thing or are like minded is really helpful. And what I
Yeah.
really liked was your story about how you became a speaker, because I feel it's so typical for many women. They get asked if they want to speak at a conference or a topic, and the first thing they think is, I have nothing to say.
Yeah, that's true. But you do,
And
you do. Yeah, you do. And the thing is, and I learned that from the conferences, you have a lot of people in the room, and probably they are there because of, I don't know, they like the topic, or sometimes in the end they are not experts. They don't know anything about the topic, but they want to be in there. So you have something to add. It doesn't mean that you have to teach something new to every people in the room, but if you think that by like sharing some knowledge, or if one person from that room can use the knowledge from you, like in their day-to-day life, it's like it's a big win, I think. So you're helping someone in the
absolutely.
end.
Yeah. And I feel that's the perspective that's so important, to understand that you always have something to give, that you always know a little bit more than someone else might, even if there are other people who know more than you, and that it's great to give something back and to teach others, and that it's just fun also to do that, and that you should
Yes.
just try it. Like your mother and your friend said, just go to Paris and speak there and
Yes.
try it out. And I think more of us should be doing that.
Yeah, and it's a big sensation in the end, so give it a try.
Thank you so much for your fascinating insight. It was wonderful having you on the podcast.
Thank you.
And for our listeners or viewers, thank you as well for joining us today. If you enjoyed this conversation, make sure to subscribe to the Women in Technology Spotlight on YouTube or in your favorite podcast app so you won't miss any new episodes. Also, head over to LinkedIn and find Teresa and follow her. And see you next time.